His name is Svein Forkbeard. How could you not love him?
You so fucking precious when you smile.
So episode 7 really marked a change in the pacing of the show, as things start to ramp up hugely. Episode 6 gave us 4-minute extended love scenes between Harald and Freydis, and now we're snapping between scenes, teleporting characters around, messing with the time, introducing new people, switching back and forward just at rapid pace. It's obvious that the showrunners were given a deadline, a certain amount of story they needed to tell by the end of the season, but only 8 episodes to work in. And they didn't want to compromise the pacing and flow of the previous episodes, and so they're just jamming everything in right now to get through it all. Saying that, I still enjoyed so much of what we got, and I really love some of these characters. I just wish we had more time with them. So as soon as we open up the episode, they don't wait around, they tell us exactly what this letter was about, as Denmark's under attack by a well-known enemy in the area, and he's required to go back and face them. The offer he made to Emma was to marry him before he left, and so they quickly arranged that in the middle of the night. To add further complications to this already kind of hectic moment in England, well, our favourite character of the episode shows up. Somehow, Vikings Valhalla has mastered the craft of introducing these very impressionable characters that I almost fall in love with immediately. In his first conversation with Edmund, he demonstrates that old man characteristic where he's always like, I saw you as a child, you're so big now. But it also slyly slips in some information about this character that we didn't know yet, that he's in England, up north, that he's been involved with English politics for quite a while. As you'd expect, Edmund is not comfortable with the situation. He wants his power back, he hates being a pawn for these Viking rulers, and that hot-headed temperament that led him to charge Canute on the bridge in the first place has not really gone away, it's just been suppressed. If anything, his time with Godwin, gaining more experience as a ruler, learning from Canute, spending more time in the court, has given him more and more confidence that he can do this. I especially enjoyed that scene where we got to see him shine a bit in the throne room when the alderman from Wessex tries to appeal to him, undermining Forkbeard, and he turns to Godwin and he's like, do you remember that guy at the fight for London? I don't remember that guy. Do you? But again, that arrogance he kind of exudes, that eagerness to fight back, it betrays him again, as Godwin uses it for his own political ambition. As Forkbeard said himself, he has a very different governing style to Canute. He's a lot more barbaric, he rules through fear, through the iron fist, a lot more like that traditional Viking. So it's very much in his style to take out this Wessex aristocrat, someone who's proven their cowardice, tried to undermine him and Canute's interests, and demonstrated open hostilities in the court. So just taking him out, replacing him with someone more loyal is the classic go-to. Now, the entire way they did Edmund's death was quintessential English politics. It's almost a meme in history how many very well-placed heirs just happened to die in quote-unquote riding accidents. And the entire build-up to the actual moment was very carefully crafted. They ensured that we kind of saw the best side of Edmund. We got to see him be sassy and witty and interesting. We got to see him be hopeful and inspirational and have fun and be a genuine person with heartfelt moments that actually really hit us. Godwin had become a father figure to Edmund, someone who was guiding him, grooming him, standing by his side through this entire mess. He placed his full heart and being behind this man he thought he could trust, his one true ally. And to see it all become a lie so clearly in his eyes just really made you feel. He wouldn't be a bad ruler, he's not a bad person, but he's just in the wrong position. Godwin wants the days of old English politics cleansed away, and just reverting back to normal isn't part of his agenda. Now, Emma, being as switched on as she is, pretty quickly realizes that the convenience of this entire situation was a little bit too suspect, and so she susses out that it's probably Godwin pretty damn quickly. They put off the tension between her and Godwin going back and forwards over this very carefully, and I enjoyed how they danced around the topic, and he almost signaled in a way that, oh yeah, I did this, but I'm not going to fully explicitly say it, and she's like, yeah, I know you did this, but I'm not going to fully explicitly accuse you. And it looks like it's going to escalate to a very intense point, and Forkbeard kind of steps in and he's like, you can leave. He knows this adds another level of security to Canute's throne, and even though it's not very honourable and it's a little bit sad to think of a man whittling a knife into a boy in the woods, we know he's not exactly afraid of killing people off for political gain. Though just as the Edmund problem seems to have been resolved, another one kind of pops up. As much as Forkbeard's style really works when he's strong-arming noblemen into paying their taxes, it really doesn't shine in these kinds of moments. As he says, he doesn't really have a delicate touch. I must say it's pretty fun to watch this big, bushy-bearded Viking of an old man poring over English maps, trying to solve some intellectual political trap set up by this ambitious Denmark queen. He's so over his head and out of his element, he just doesn't know what to do. But fortunate for him, one of the most ambitious and dangerous women in the world is by his side. And that very same Danish queen walked into her home and soldered her to her face and declared proverbial war on her. Now this is a showdown I'm looking forward to. So over at Kattegat, we finally get to see Harald, Leif, Freydis, all those storylines mesh together, and we start to see what the chemistry of that entire group looks like. The way they open it up with this ominous boat with the heads on the spikes drifting into the Kattegat harbour was very telling for what kind of enemy they're facing, and also strangely reminded me when the Vikings first started raiding in England and they used to use this tactic on their boats to scare the living shit out of them. So obviously over the years, the tactic hasn't fell out of style. So the team kind of quickly realizes they're going to head for Uppsala, the heart of the pagan world. They send out a squad to go figure out what's going on. As the others kind of take in the horrific sight of all the dead bodies, the sheer carnage, the loss of the cultural ground, we see Leif remain that very reserved, very on task, get things kind of done focus. He organizes them to split up and find survivors. He volunteers himself to track down Jarl Kore and find out where the location is. He likes to lead through his actions, through getting things done with his skills. But for me, the main takeaway of this sequence is really sinking in what it means for Freydis to be the last. Growing up on Greenland, isolated from the changes happening in Scandinavia, she was fully immersed in the pagan way, the old rituals, among the last to grow up fully untainted. After the destruction of Uppsala, she's the last guest that will ever pray there, the last person accepted by their temples and priests, the last to fully embrace that experience. As she earned her position as a shield maiden, as a warrior, she will likely also be the last of that breed too. There may be more that come after that grow up in Greenland, but they can't ever go to Uppsala and feel that ritual. There may be people who grow up as warriors and fight for their beliefs, but they won't be the shield maidens of Kattegat, following the legacies of people like Lagertha. And Jarl Kore kind of recognizes that, seeing her as the final trophy to kill. Speaking of Jarl Kore, his scenes were some of the funniest in the episode. As we suspected, Olaf and him, recognizing their shared interests, have kind of teamed up in taking down Kattegat. And we knew Olaf was an ambitious character who bends his principles a lot, who's pretty slimy in a lot of ways, but even for him it was testing his limits to face down this obviously crazy man, leading his pack of zealous crazy men, talking to invisible people in empty cages. But at the end of the day, he does need his men, and so, skull to that! Now, I was happily surprised in the direction they took this conflict between the son of the Jarl and Leif. I really thought they were trying to drum him up to be this obvious antagonist, making him very unlikable, but he had a real sympathetic position. But instead of going down the kind of cheap, obvious route to prove Leif again, they really humanized the guy, explaining his position, showing the dilemma in his heart, and give Leif an opportunity to appeal to him. So whether he goes down the bloodthirsty route or takes up his advice, I'll be happy to see this character given a real chance to improve or develop. And lastly, of course, we have to talk about Harald and his decision to head over to Olaf and his army, abandoning Freydis. Maybe all the scenes we got with him loving and caring and open with Freydis were lies. Maybe all the time he spent with Leif and the others meant nothing. Maybe this character has fully duped us, the viewers, and every character around him. Or, imagine this, Vikings has an arc in which two brothers are pitted against each other and fight. Oh, don't be crazy. Vikings would never do that. So that's episode 7. All we have left is the finale. Everything has to come to a crescendo. This battle around Kattegat, what's happening in England, it's going to be fascinating. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this new Danish queen. She's such an interesting and snarky character. I love the actor's portrayal of her. So if you have any thoughts on her and where that's heading, tell me in the comment section below.